If you are thinking about moving to Portland, Oregon and buying a home, one of the biggest decisions you're going to face is living in the city versus the suburbs. And look, my team and I have helped people do both, and some people end up loving their decision and some people end up absolutely hating it. So the difference often comes down to things that you really can't know unless you are here. And that's exactly what I'm here for. If you're moving to Portland or thinking about it and you are trying to navigate this for yourself, seriously give me a call, shoot me a text message, send me an email. I would love to sit down with you and hear a couple of things that you love, some of the stuff you hate, and I can almost guarantee that you and I will pinpoint the perfect area for you. Now, before we get into the differences, I want to touch on a couple of similarities because there are a lot of misconceptions about Portland versus the suburbs that you really can't know until you are here. So similarity number one would be the outdoors. A lot of people know that in the city of Portland, you've got incredible parks like Forest Park and Washington Park, the waterfront. But a lot of people assume that once you live in the central city, you're giving up on a lot of your outdoor life. Well, that's simply not true. In our suburbs, I've seen some of the best parks, trails, and riverfront access anywhere in the metro. Right now, if I think about West Linn, Lake Oswego, and Sherwood, I think of some of my favorite outdoor spaces in the entire region, including compared to what's in the city itself. So don't get me wrong, Portland proper has incredible outdoor amenities, but don't think you are giving that up by moving into the suburbs. Similarity number two would be community. This is something I don't think gets talked about enough, but it's true. Both in the city and in the suburbs, the sense of community runs really, really deep. A lot of people assume that if you move out to a suburb like Wilsonville or Happy Valley, you're trading in that tight-knit, connected feeling for something more spread out and anonymous. And some people assume that the opposite is true, that the city feels too transient or too disconnected to ever build real community. And I can tell you that probably neither one is true, or if you want to see the other way, both of them are true. In the suburbs, you will find farmers markets and neighborhood associations and youth sports and leagues, volunteer groups. Places like Lake Oswego and West Linn have incredibly active community calendars. And in the city, you've got neighborhood associations in basically every part of town, plus marker spaces, running clubs, volunteer organizations, block parties. Portland's whole culture is built around people showing up for each other and their block. And speaking of block parties, I live in West Linn with my whole family, and we do have block parties basically every 2 to 3 months. And these are some of the best times the kids play with our neighborhood kids, the adults gather together and we talk about what's going on. And then also on top of that, there are networking events, pickleball networking events. So there is everything for like a little bit of everything for everybody. Similarity number three would be the fitness culture. We've noticed this a lot lately in the city of Portland. We're seeing biking groups, running groups, hiking groups everywhere. The fitness culture here is really deeply social, and that's just not something you will find in a lot of other big cities. But that same social fitness culture exists out in the suburbs too. I know so many clients who have moved out to Happy Valley and Wilsonville and Hillsborough and Camas and almost immediately get plugged into a running club, a rec league, a cycling club. Whatever you are looking for, there are people for you in the city and in the suburbs. Now let's talk about the differences. So the first one, I have to be really careful how I talk about it because it's schools. So I'm not really allowed to talk about a lot about schools, but if you look at greatschools.org or niche.com, you will generally find that suburban districts like Lake Oswego, West Linn, Wilsonville, and Tigard-Tualatin, and also Beaverton in some pockets, the ratings for those are noticeably higher on average than a lot of Portland public schools. That doesn't mean that every school in the city is bad, and it doesn't mean that every suburban school is great. There are pockets in Portland with excellent sought-after schools schools, and there are suburban schools that are just average. If you want the real, honest breakdown for your specific situation, that is a conversation to have directly with me. I can't get into too much specifics on here, but I'll definitely tell you the truth. Difference number 2 would be safety. This is something that everybody's kind of tiptoeing around. So let's face it, suburbs like Lake Oswego, West Linn, Sherwood, Wilsonville, Happy Valley, on the average are very safe. I'm not saying zero crime ever happens anywhere, but in general, you can walk your neighborhood, let your kids ride their bikes around the block and not think twice. In the city, however, the variety is bigger. It varies block to block. Some neighborhoods feel just as safe as anywhere in the suburbs, and others have seen more visible issues, so I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. We all know what happened during the pandemic. Things have started to heal. However, there are certain neighborhoods, certain blocks in certain areas that are still not very safe. So there is no single answer. Everything varies from place to place, but that is going to be, again, specific to you and how you want to live your life. Difference number 3 would be commute. A lot of people are moving here for jobs, obviously. Again, Nike, Intel, Columbia Sportswear, OHSU, the growing tech and semiconductor corridor in Washington County. So if you are living in the city and working downtown or close in, it's hard to imagine a commute over 20 to 25 minutes. But if you're living out in the suburbs, Camas, Vancouver, Hillsborough, Happy Valley, the outer suburbs, you should expect at least 30 to 45 minutes depending on traffic and the bridges. And we all know that I-5 is just hell. I will say for people relocating for places like Bay Area, LA, or DC, 30-minute commute from Lake Oswego or Sherwood to downtown sounds like a dream compared to what they're used to. However, it still gets what we call the bottleneck traffic. Difference number 4 would be the food and the total vibe. So Portland's slogan, "Keep Portland Real," is real. You will see indie shops and food carts, and the electrical character of neighborhoods like Hawthorne or Alberta is very much alive, even as the city has grown up and have gotten a little bit more corporate in a lot of those spots. When you head out to the suburbs, you get a little bit more polished, dialed in feel, a little bit better a variety of grocery stores and restaurants and spread out, but we still have the food trucks, we still have that scene going on here. It's just a little bit more polished, I would say. And if access to only in Portland food scene matters to you, that is going to be easier to find it in the city. Though plenty of great spots have open satellite locations out of places like Lake Oswego or Hillsborough or Beaverton. Difference number 5, this would be home prices. This is a big one. Your money goes much further in the suburbs, or does it? So let's talk about Lake Oswego. So Lake Oswego is one of the most sought after suburbs, and if you have $1 million here, let's say $750 to $1 million, you are basically gonna look into either a little bit of an older home or a fixer-upper. And if you take that amount of money and move to Wilsonville or Happy Valley or even West Linn, you are looking into a really nice 4 or 5 bedroom house with some yard space and good school district. And if you move to Portland, if you go to Northwest, Southwest Portland, again, that would be an older home with a lot, I shouldn't say issues, but a lot of projects. And if you go to Southeast or Northeast and North Portland, you will definitely get a much nicer home for your money. Your money goes a long way in those areas. Neither is wrong, it just really depends on what you are optimizing for. So if you're trying to figure out whether the city or the suburbs make more sense for you, reach out. Every area around Portland offers something different, and a quick conversation can save you months of trial and error. Call, text, or email me. All my information is below. I'll see you on the next one.